There has been controversy about the causes of serial killers, and nature or nurture has become one of the most common questions. When some serial killers are not abused and still kill a lot, we can't help but look to other factors. Two concepts will be involved here: ASPD, that is, antisocial personality disorder, and psychopathy. Many serial killers have been confirmed to have ASPD or psychopathy. There are connections and differences between these two concepts, and this is also the part that many people debated in the comments of the previous video. In short, ASPD is a diagnosable personality disorder, most often created as a result of poor parenting, while psychopathy refers to a range of personality traits, most often congenital. Later, we will make a video to introduce and distinguish them in detail. In short, when individuals who have not been abused but still become serial killers, it is likely that some innate factors predispose them to this condition. So, what are the factors? After my research, I concluded the following two main possible reasons. Number 1. Frontal lobe damage. The frontal lobe is an important part of our brain. Damage to this area can increase a person's risk of committing a crime, according to research from Vanderbilt University of the US. Of the 31 confessed murderers, 20 were diagnosed with mental illness. Of these 20 people, 64% had frontal lobe abnormalities. Studies of many other serial killers have shown that many of them suffered serious injuries to the head, that is, the frontal lobe, as children. In these cases, individuals undergoing car accidents or other forms of head bombs experience personality changes that increase their chances of committing antisocial crimes. Regarding the extent to which frontal lobe damage can create a serial killer, we plan to explore this subject in a future video about American serial killer Charles Whitman as an example. Whitman was a former Marine who took a sniper rifle to the top of a watchtower, where he shot and killed 16 people, including his wife and mother. Going back to the topic just now, the second reason is genes. Brain studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison show that brain scans show that psychosis in criminals is associated with reduced connectivity between the amygdala and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, that is VMPFC, the part of the brain responsible for processing negative stimulus, and the VMPFC is a cortical region in the front of the brain that translates feedback from the amygdala. When the connectivity between these two regions is low, the processing of negative stimulus in the amygdala does not translate into any strong negative emotions. This fits the profile of a psychopath very well. They don't feel nervous or embarrassed when they are caught doing something wrong. They don't feel bad when someone else is tortured. That is, although they can feel physical pain, they cannot feel emotional damage. Several scientific studies have shown that psychopathic tendencies are highly likely to be genetic. In 1993, Dutch professor Han Brenner discovered a gene mutation called MAOA. MAOA is responsible for breaking down neurotransmitters such as serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. When an individual has a mutation in the MAOA gene, these neurotransmitters build up in the brain, making it harder for the individual to control impulses. Having this gene can lead to aggressive or violent behavior, so it has also been nicknamed the serial killer gene or warrior gene. The gene has been linked to various psychiatric disorders. Still, not all serial killers from happy families can lay the blame on their own hardware. Some people have a perfectly functioning brain and no problem with their genes. However, there are other factors that can influence people to behave in dangerous or unethical ways. Therefore, to a large extent, genetic, biological, social, and psychological factors work together to cause the occurrence of antisocial behavior in individuals. Going back to the case of this video, in order to get closer to his prey, Iqbal used to run a video game arcade, a gym, and an aquarium. Iqbal's method of seducing those little boys is very tricky. He would pick and track poor kids, deliberately giving them the opportunity to steal his belongings and then capture them in order to blackmail them into obeying his wishes. It can be said that Iqbal used all means to achieve his goals. Some people may ask, if Iqbal has committed crimes many times, why has he not been arrested? The main reason is related to the corruption of Pakistani police. Iqbal's financial situation has often saved him from arrest, and many parents of missing children are afraid of calling the police because of the risk of being blackmailed by the police or facing fake charges. Iqbal's behavior of going to the newspaper instead of the place when he's surrounded also make people suspect that he did it to attract attention, and he has a clear lack of remorse for what he has done. And he changed his words repeatedly, sometimes saying he did it and other times that he didn't do it. There are also doubts about the number of victims. In fact, we do not have a specific list of the so-called 100 victims. After Iqbal was arrested, 26 bodies of strangled boys were found one after another, and Iqbal has a high probability of exaggerating the number of victims. The purpose may be to attract attention or cause public panic. We can see that he is also very good at lying. It is clear that Iqbal showed antisocial and psychopathic behavior, but unfortunately, there is no clear evidence that there was something wrong with his brain or genes. So, it's hard to say what led Iqbal and other serial killers who grow up in happy families to commit crimes. However, there are many variables in a person's life that can affect the formation of personality. Perhaps, at some point in Iqbal's life, due to some small factor which could be genetic, psychological, or social, his personality changed subtly. Evil thoughts are like snowballs, getting bigger and bigger until they finally get out of control and lead to a tragic and horrific ending. The follow-up to this case may even be more interesting than the case itself. The judge in charge of it made a shocking verdict according to Qisas, which can be translated as an eye for an eye, the legal concept of Islamic law. He said, "You will be strangled to death in front of the parents whose children you killed. Your body will then be cut into 100 pieces and put in acid, the same way you killed the children." The hanging was said to be carried out in a public square that Iqbal frequented when searching for victims. This verdict was undoubtedly reassuring for a portion of the general public. However, from a legal point of view, it seems somewhat capricious, which caused dissatisfaction among many people. Pakistan's Interior Minister said such a judgment was inadmissible and would be challenged in the High Court. Regardless, Javeed Iqbal, then 42, was sentenced to hang to death. His 4 accomplices, 17-year-old Sajid Ahmad, were also sentenced to death for their involvement in the murder. 15-year-old Mahmad Nadim was found guilty of murdering 13 victims and sentenced to 182 years in prison, 14 years for each murder. And 13-year-old Mahmad Sabil was sentenced to 63 years in prison. Unfortunately, however, Iqbal did not get the punishment he deserved. On the morning of October 8, 2001, Iqbal and one of his accomplices, Ahmad, were found dead in their prison cells, hanging by ropes made with their sheets. Autopsies revealed they were beaten before they died. Doctors at the mortuary said strangulation marks were found around the men's blood-spattered necks, the hands, feet, and nails of the deceased had turned blue. There were blood marks from the mouth and nostrils, and one had a cut on the tongue. Iqbal's lawyer can be described as very loyal. He told the BBC that there are huge doubts about Iqbal's death. He questioned the official cause of Iqbal's death and planned to appeal against Iqbal's sentence. He said, "The sentence is not inevitable. There is no law which allows a person to be hanged publicly, to cut up pieces of the body. It is against the Constitution of Pakistan." He also said that Iqbal had written to him saying that he might be murdered by the authorities. Iqbal's family refused to collect his body. His brothers claimed Iqbal was dead to them the day he confessed to killing 100 children. "We have nothing to do with him," they said. It is worth mentioning that the story of Javed Iqbal has also been adapted into a movie called Javed Iqbal, The Untold Story of a Serial Killer, which was originally planned to be released on January 28, 2022, but was banned by the Pakistani government. It was withdrawn one day before its release. Iqbal's mental state has not been confirmed, but the case reflects problems in Pakistani society. Perhaps the social significance of this case is even greater than the psychological significance. Iqbal's crimes may have been caused by mental disorders, or maybe they were born out of a great emptiness, or just out of pure evil. But his crimes were also fueled by imperfect moral concepts, poverty, and an incomplete and flawed legal system. We should reflect from this case on how a society can avoid producing people like Javed Iqbal. People are going to behave however the social norms permit, and beyond that. Max Cannon.